Good morning. It's Morning Oasis. It is Monday, the 23rd of January. Welcome. Whew. I don't know about you guys, but it's been really hard to get like a full night's sleep. And I've been having a hard time getting myself into bed also. So I'm going to just take a moment while we all come together and get in the space. I'm going to light my candle. I forgot to light my incense. Today I was going to try and do my broadcasts from my iPad so that when people are calling me and texting me, because clearly others aren't as invested in my schedule as I am, I thought, well, maybe I can just work from my iPad, but the iPad would not work at all to log in. It was really interesting. So this is my 5th time trying to use the iPad to log in for our morning Oasis time. So I think that's just shows how stubborn I am, that I will keep trying something even after it's not working. It's like the 5th time. So I don't know if you noticed, but I finally got rid of the Christmas tree. It took coming down on the family. We are getting this out of the house and we're doing it together. And lots of oaths of I am never getting a Christmas tree again. I make that vow every year, I'm pretty sure. And actually, you know, I got away with not having to do it a couple of years there because we went to other people's houses for Christmas. Or yeah, I think we went to other people's houses. Well, I guess it was just 1 year there. Anyway, good morning. How are all of you? I hope you're all doing well. I thought the big thing for me over the weekend that came up was energy balance, feminine energy in particular. I think that what happened was that with so many people joining together in protest, and so many women in particular stepping up and coming together and creating those bonds under the hood of womanhood. So I think that what happened is we just got this huge surge of divine feminine energy coming through. Morning, Andrea. And it was such a flush of energy that, I don't know about you guys, but on Friday night, was it Friday night and Saturday night, both, I had the most intense cramping down at my ankle. Let's see, it was in my ankle, going up my calf, and then I had some of it like on my side, right below my rib cage, and then some of it like in my neck and shoulders, and oh yeah, also right in my wing butt, that right wing butt. And I was trying to go to sleep and I couldn't. Like every few minutes my whole leg would like like that. It was so uncomfortable. And my husband was like, "Are you okay?" You know, he kept asking me if I was okay. And I'm stubborn. I will admit it. And the last thing I really think to ask is this energetic? And you know, you would think that somebody like me, that would be where I would go to first, because it's all energetic. But that's how strong our programming and our beliefs are. That is how strong the filter that we view everything is. It's that thick of a lens. That the first thing I thought of was, do I have enough potassium? Am I having muscle cramps because something's wrong? Is it a blood clot? Right? No. Okay. So is this physiological? No. Okay. Is this energetic? Yeah. Just this flush of relief. And then the cramping, because you got it right, but now what are you going to do about it? So I'm telling you guys this because this is what happens for me. This is the process that I go through, and I hope by sharing it with you that you will, one, not be so harsh with yourself when you fall trapped to your own filters. 2, not be so harsh with others when they're acting out through their filters. And 3, so that you'll think to ask maybe. You'll remember me talking about how my fear of, this physical problems. And it's not, I don't think it's that I'm afraid to die. I think it's that I'm afraid to suffer. I really dislike suffering. I try to avoid it at all costs. And the funny thing is the more I was trying to avoid suffering, the more suffering was coming up in my life. The more I was dealing with suffering, the more I was supporting other people with suffering. As I shifted myself away from that, I don't have as many suffering people coming to me, though you are all welcome if that's where you're at. I know how to get out of it. But it's what we attract, what we're ready to deal with, where we're at, what we're ready to support, who we're identifying with. And the reason that we do that is because those people that we attract, that we draw to us, whether we're a healer or a practitioner of some sort, or a really good supportive friend, or a mother, whatever it may be, the people that we're drawing, good morning, Siska, the people that we're drawing to us are showing us which filters of ourselves are at play. And that's what I wanted to talk about, because I think I'm seeing so much filter action going on right now in this, especially as a result of where we're at as a globe, really. I mean, this is a human thing. This is kind of coming out all around the planet. And the reason is because we are coming into that collective consciousness space where we are actually connected consciously to the suffering that's happening in some of those regions that are experiencing extreme suffering and trauma. I'm not going to name one because there are many. You just take your pick of continent and you can find a population that is suffering and struggling right now, that's facing oppression. And each one is going to feel like, oh my gosh, that's the worst that it could be. And likewise, on the flip side of that, you can find people that are at the other extreme of that. And so right now, what we're having highlighted are these extremes. The extreme of wealth, of oppression, of being the dominant force, as well as that extreme low of being disempowered and voiceless, and how the voiceless are trying to stand up and bring themselves up, and the empowered are trying not to come down. So this whole system is going to be really uncomfortable. And the one thing that I have found as I'm doing this process of shedding away these filters and coming into more authenticity, coming into more wholeness, coming into myself, is I realize that when I am in an extreme, when I am feeling wounded, angry, suffering, or when I am feeling righteous and justified and validated and in the right, I'm triggered. And it really doesn't matter what the circumstances around it are. It really doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing I'm holding a polar extreme. That's it. That's all I have to do in that moment. And then I have to pause and thank myself for being willing to swing so far and start finding the gratitude in myself. So that's what today is going to be about. And that's what this whole week is going to be about, really. I feel like that's kind of where we're at. We're finding that people, this morning, my husband, he listens to the news every morning. And usually I actually have headphones on and I'm listening to music, or I'm not down here. So I actually avoid the news at all costs normally. So it's interesting that I was listening this morning, because normally that's not what I do. And what they were talking about is there's a fire in Northwest Portland, which it's at an apartment complex, and it was pretty early this morning. So I really hope everyone is okay. And I'm sending some love that way. Morning, Sue. But it also told the story. And a guy recorded it because he was so shocked by this woman's behavior. So these two people, this couple and a man, got onto the airplane. And the woman was sitting next to this man, and she found out that he was a Trump supporter. And she called the stewardess. The plane hadn't taken off yet. They were just getting settled. So this is something that she was talking to him about immediately. And she demanded that she be allowed to move seats because there was no way she was going to sit next to a Trump supporter, that either he or she had to move. So he started recording it, and she called him ignorant. She started shouting. She was standing up and shouting in the plane, yelling at him that, do you believe in gravity, and like all of these things. And so the pilot said that she needed to get off the plane. He was like, done, no, off. She's being too destructive. And the woman said, okay, I'll be good. But the pilot said, no, get off. She had created a whole negative environment in the entire cabin. She'd brought the entire cabin into it. Now, as an energy worker, I look at that situation and I think, wow, that was like a captive space. If I had been in that plane, I would have put a great big mirror around the whole plane and just called up all of that karmic debris and fear that we hold around what another can do to us. Because really that's what we're experiencing right now, is this fear of disempowerment, the fear that this other person is in power. Well, here's the reality, guys. Those people have been in power the whole time. We're just seeing them. They're just now not afraid to hide it. It is like a last-ditch effort of keeping that whole control mechanism at play as I bang my water. And remember, the new thing that people are fighting over isn't oil anymore. It's water. That's what, and they're buying it in the background. Okay, that just popped into my head, so I'm going to throw it out there. So that plane incident, looking at that through the eyes of a healer, looking at that through the eyes of an energy worker, or as a collective consciousness individual, I would see that as an opportunity to bring union, to bring balance. I personally have had many conversations with Trump supporters and Trump opposers, and I would venture to say, at least from what I've heard from them, that what they get as a result of that exchange is at least a little bit more compassion for themselves and the other person. So today I think what we're going to look at is that mirror. We're going to try and look at that mirror and let go of the judgment piece. So before we get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about something else that popped up for me this morning. Again, perfect in alignment. Tony Robbins, my friend Eric, he posted a snippet from one of Tony Robbins' talks. I absolutely love Tony Robbins. There has not been a single thing that man has said that I have heard that I didn't go, oh man, that was so right on. So if you're looking for somebody to follow or to show up and learn from, he is one of those. And his talk was called, the little snippet was called Blame Them. Blame them for everything. So the premise was, if you're going to blame them for the bad, if you're going to blame somebody for the bad, then you also have to blame them for the good. And he references how his mother used to beat him a lot as a child, all through his childhood, and how he actually is grateful to her for that too, because what it did was create for him deep compassion to help end other suffering, a deep love for his wife, and connection, because he knows what it is to have the other. He understood his mother because he understood that she was doing that behavior out of her own fear of loss, fear of loneliness, fear of being abandoned, fear of recreating that, yet her fear driving that to happen in the end. Good morning, Alex. So he said, if I'm going to blame her for that, I've got to blame her for everything else. And what he said was, and I loved this, if she hadn't been the mother I wanted, I wouldn't be the man that I'm proud to be. And I feel like that's just so bang on. You know, there's times where in my own life I can look back at my parenting and feel really frustrated and angry, and I certainly have expressed that to both of my parents, and and you know, all of the step parents and blah blah blah. But that said, at the same time, what it taught me was how strong I am and how capable I am of standing in my own truth. I often was shut down in my childhood. My family would call me, my grandfather called me Motor Mouth. My mom called me the Village News. You know, I was always told that I was talking too much, I was too excited, I was too loud. One friend used to get mad at me for being too happy, too over the top. I used to pop out of bed at 5 a.m. and I was really excited. And I grew up on a horse farm most of the time. We were always moving, but had horses. So I got up in the morning and I went and shoveled poo and cleaned out the stall so I had time to spend with my horse before I went to school in the morning. You know, and I came home. I always was like keeping that high energy and joy as much as I could. And I did that for my family. And what I learned as a result of that was, well, one, that you can find joy and happiness in anything, you know, really in any situation. You can find gratitude and joy. And two, that I learned that I was safe and happy and comfortable if the external was safe and happy and comfortable. So I made my focus for all of my life until really, honestly, like the last year, making the external happy, making the external safe, making the external comfortable for me. My whole focus was on who's making it unsafe and get them out. Out. Done. Cut. And out. But the funny thing was I wouldn't actually do the cutting. What I would do is keep putting it in their face. This is what you're doing. It's unacceptable, 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 until they would cut. Because, you know, then I got that pedestal of, well, I'm not the one that left them. They left. They're the ones that didn't want to take accountability or responsibility for their behavior. See all the blame, all that judgment, all those filters that are skewing my perceptions. So we all have these filters. We all have them. I didn't get any requests for card pulls, by the way. I'm just going to jump over to that for a second. So we're not going to do that today. But what we are going to do is we're going to pull a Ganesh card that is going to bring in that energy to support us today in looking at this stuff, because this is hard. But this is the beautiful opportunity that we have as a result of what's just occurred, right? This unity consciousness, first of all, we have, I mean, really millions of people around the world unified under one concept of, I will not accept this. So what are we not going to accept? And let's try to steer that ship as consciousness folks, as people that are paying attention and aware and present. What can we do to support the collective in this? So the card that I pull for today is Divine Support. And this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. We have to let go. We don't control the external, we control the internal. Bashar says, it's like looking at the mirror and screaming at it to smile at you. Well, you have to smile, and then the mirror can't help but smile back. The truth is that personally, I'm not experiencing any hate or anger in my social media platform. I'm not experiencing any social hate or anger in my external. My life is stable, even though I have emotional ups and downs. I have struggle, right? I have lessons at play. But I'm not personally going through this huge extreme. I'm observing. This isn't to say I'm better than, I'm at a higher place. This is purely to show you another face, another possibility, a different way that somebody is approaching this whole situation. I am hearing from a lot of people that they're feeling overwhelmed at the anger, the frustration, the fear, and that they want it to stop. They're yelling at the mirror to stop being so frustrated and angry. They're yelling at the mirror to give me rights. Don't take my rights away from me. The truth is, when this many people are standing up, there's no way that rights are going to be taken away. There's no way. And we're coming together. We're coming together in numbers like we never have before as beings. So what would it look like if that flag that we're coming together under isn't one of an FU to him, which is kind of where it's at right now. And it's a hallelujah to all of us. Yeah, like all of us are amazing. All of us are amazing beings. How can we be together? How can we be one in this? One of the people, I'm going to put this divine support card up here so it's just shining its Om and its light onto us. There's an Om image. I'm going to just show you guys one more time because this is such a beautiful card. So, you know, when I start to talk with people about this kind of subject, one of the things that comes up the most is the ignorance piece. And we feel like it must be because those other people are ignorant of something. They're unaware of the truth. And that must be why they are ignorantly supporting Trump or ignorantly speaking to climate change or ignorantly speaking against climate change. It really doesn't matter what subject, right? These are the forest of ignorance, we'll just call it. We can talk about the individual trees, but the forest is what we're really focusing on. So that forest of ignorance that we get caught up in judging, when we're looking at the mirror part of that, really, it's a part of ourselves coming back and saying, I feel like you're ignorant of me. And how many of us are not really present with ourselves, not really aware of how we personally are feeling about what's going on in our lives, and are actually in a reactive and triggered state. And again, remember, you know you're in an active or reactive or triggered state when you are not in that balanced place, when you're swinging high in justification, validation, entitled, or empowered, you know, all of these, the high of I am here and you aren't because you don't know. This up here is triggered as much as this down here. The ignorance, the I won't look at anything but myself, my own life. I will not allow anything but anyone else to impact me, right? We view that as this ignorance state. I remember, you know, I grew up in small towns, and I remember moving into the city and learning how the city people viewed the small town people. I didn't view them as any different until I moved into the city. And then I would hear people calling them ignorant hicks, hicks being synonymous with ignorant. And I was shocked because some of the most intelligent people I ever met were in the country. Artists, craftsmen, people who had released themselves from the social mechanism that the city people lived so fully engaged within, and instead engaged themselves in the natural mechanism. So they were more aware of how their fields were in August versus October. They were more aware of how to read the clouds. They were more aware of where to find the water, right? These were things that were more important to them. They watched the animals. They watched the nature. You know, they found how to take one thing that they hunted themselves. They had the dignity and pride and investment in their food source that they went and they hunted it. I don't know a lot of trophy hunters, but I know a lot of hunters, and they would bring the full body back and find ways to use all the pieces of this body. And we as city folk were like, is it cut like a roast or is it a steak? Because I don't even know how to cut a steak, right? So who's ignorant? But we view them as ignorant. The truth is that we're viewing them through the filter of this is what I view of as an individual who is aware and informed, thereby worthy of my attention, my respect, my support, my connection, my compassion. Well, aren't all people worthy of that? Even if they don't fit into your frame of what is not ignorance, not intolerance. I mean, doesn't a person who is fully intolerant need more tolerance than someone who holds tolerance themselves? I mean, don't they need more? They're lacking it. I remember, when I tell people that my father, he's been one of my greatest challenges in my life. We've had conflicted relationships, a conflicted relationship all the way up until just the last few years. And honestly, I would have to say that having a child was what changed that for both of us. Him wanting to be connected to his grandson and his daughter, and him aging and growing, me aging and softening and releasing my need for him to be responsible for my pain and suffering. So as I've released those things and he's released, we've had more and more conversations. And he's a Roman Catholic, first-generation Italian-American naval pilot, CEO. What are all the labels that I could put on him? Trump supporter, Republican, conservative. I don't know if he's a Trump supporter. He's a conservative Republican. I'm pretty sure he voted for Trump, but I wouldn't go so far. We haven't really talked about Trump. But one of the things that he said to me recently, I would say it was about a year ago, was that I taught him how to have a conversation with somebody that was on the completely opposite side because of all the times that we had these conflicts. So one time we had a conflict because he was asking me which side I supported. This was back during the Bush, was it the first? No, it was the second Bush election, I think. Maybe it was, I don't even remember which election it was, but it was one of the elections that was recently. And he said, he was like, which side are you on? And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, which side are you on? And I said, well, you mean like politically? And he goes, yeah. And I said, well, I'm on the human side. And he goes, what does that mean? You can't say you're on the human side. And I said, yeah, I am. And this was about 8 years ago. This was when Obama was running, that's right. So he said, you can't say that you're on the human side. You have to pick a side. And I said, well, I mean, technically I'm a registered Democrat so that I can vote in the primaries, which is bullshit, by the way. Bullshit. We should not have to pick a side in order to vote in our primaries. We should not only be allowed to pick from the party we identify with. Anyway, so I said, well, I'm a registered Democrat for that reason, but I've voted Republican, I voted Democrat, I voted Libertarian, I voted Green, it depends on what their platform is. If they're an individual, it depends on what the policy is, right? It's those things that matter to me. I don't even look at what party do they represent. And he just got enraged. And we had this whole big argument about it and went into all this social moral values that the parties are holding. And it just went into all these different avenues of this. And the whole time I'm just kind of like observing and wow, it's really uncomfortable for him to not have me be in a platform that he can butt against. So eventually the conversation completely shifted away from, because there's just nothing, there's no reaction. It's like when you're trying to clap a hand and the hand just moves away from you, there's no satisfaction in it. It's a limp shake. So it evolved, and we began talking about social issues, talking about, what are our values, what are our personal morals, and left the conversation of what are our identifying parties. So see how we can do that in a conversation just by stepping back and staying balanced. So for me, as I do this work, as I progress down this road, how I determine what is the next self-work I want to do. What frame, what filter of perception do I want to look at next? And as soon as I make that agreement, I'm ready for my next lesson. You know what happens? Oh yeah, I get slapped in my face with some indignant, like, oh, I can't believe that person just did that. For me right now, it's drivers. I'm really struggling with drivers. I'm not sure why they don't know how to use their blinker or how to like be predictable. Like, we're all driving together. So that's where my next filters rest. Because what is driving? Driving is my motivation, my moving forward. It's how I move in my life. It's how I accelerate. TSA. Yeah. Oh, those guys, they always pat me down. And they always, with my husband, always, every single time, they test his palms for explosive debris. Okay? We fly a lot, guys. They don't test my palms for explosive debris, but they test his. But they do pat me down. I don't know what it is about my back shoulder. This shoulder right here, for some reason, always trips their trigger. I think there's an implant or something there. We'll see. Anyway, okay, so the filters. I thought what we would do... Oh, yeah, that's right. I got sidetracked. So what we do is we find, where do we go up or down? When we are up or down, we used to view these things as... you know, as problems, right? Like, oh, Jesse, you're way too excited. Are you manic? Do you have mania? Are you OCD? A little. Are you, what are some of the other terms that we minimize ourselves by being up? Or down. Are you depressed? Are you having severe anxiety problems? Are you struggling? So we're going to look at these 2 points, and you can pick whichever filter you want to work on today in today's meditation. It's going to be up to you. But what we're going to do is call your filter into focus and look at it in the mirror. And we're going to look until we fall in love with that part which right now we despise, we reject, we are better than, we're frustrated by, we're wounded by, we endure, we survive. Whatever it is, we're going to play with this, and I'm going to teach you guys a really powerful technique that I personally use and have developed. It's part of that Breaking Through Your Mirrors workshop. It's part of the Life Mastery series. It's just that powerful, and it's one that takes some time to master, because those filters are strong. So let's talk a moment. Well, all of you guys, I want you to take your time. Most of you are with me every day. You know how to ground and connect already and flow that through the body. I want you to go ahead and take this time while I talk about this to ground and connect yourself and to flow those energies through the body, bringing in that optimum allowance, optimum flow. And if you don't know how to do it, then just take this time and imagine and visualize a tree around you. And imagine what it would be like to be inside of that tree with your roots growing down and your crown opening up to the light, feeling the light flowing through and the waters of the earth coming up and through. Okay? So work on that. And we're going to talk about filters. Filters are these run programs, these autopilot, these lenses that we put on that allow us to view the world through a filter that tells us our belief is true. If we believe that it is always dark and night, then we're like wearing shades all the time, and it just casts that darkness in. And anything that would be light is coming through that filter, so it's tainted, it's darkened. Yeah. So if you're feeling and experiencing physiological pain, okay, so if you're experiencing physiological pain, my signal shows that it's strong, and all other internets are off, so it should be strong. But physiological pain, technological difficulties, if you're starting to feel distracted, if people are coming up and around you, if animals are starting to interact, all of these things, all of them are part of your filter. Thank them. Thank them for showing you that you're really afraid to look at this, and that The distractions are coming to help give you something else to focus on. Thank it and tell that little part of yourself, it's going to be okay, because Jesse's not going to leave me hanging, and I'm not going to leave me hanging. Tell the parts of the body that are reacting, thank you for showing me in this part of my body I'm struggling. Thank you. Thank you for showing me that this is a place that I'm storing my pain, that I'm storing my anxiety, that I'm storing this filter. Thank it. If you have a specific part of the body that's hurting, you can type it in. I have an emotional pain chart that I pulled up that I really love. It's a great quick reference, and I can tell you what that chart and what my intuition may be speaking to. With the left leg pain, I'm getting that's your feminine energy, and it's your grounding feminine energy. How is your feminine energy grounded into the earth, into this plane, into the physical expression? Are you pulling that divine feminine all the way down through the body, or is it stopping somewhere? Is there a tightness somewhere in the body, as we call the divine feminine into focus? A skin rash. So our skin is that external boundary. Are you feeling like your boundaries are being irritated? Are you fearful about that? Ear ringing is getting louder. So louder ear ringing, that sound, the pressure, those are your support coming in. That's the energy coming in, and it's a communication. So if the communication is coming in, imagine that you have a great big tuning dial, and you're just tuning that radio until you start to connect in to this, and the ringing turns into a comfortable feeling. Sometimes we have to actually move our head, turn our body, maybe lay back, continue shifting and adjusting your position until the tuning goes away. Mid-back pain. So mid-back, when we have pain along the back, anywhere along the spine, it represents support in our life. It represents lack of, upper back is lack of emotional support, feeling unloved, and shoulder stuff is how are we handling our burdens. Mid-back is getting stuck, guilt, get off my back, that feeling of being ridden. And lower back is fear of money, lack of financial support, and if it goes down into the hips, fear of how do I move forward. Let's see, my head, brain behind so much tension in my neck. Neck is refusing to see other sides of the question, stubbornness and inflexibility. It's being rigid. I can only see it this way. That's the only way it makes sense. If it's the right head, your head and brain in the back. So let me just feel that for a moment, because sometimes that can actually be a wound from another lifetime, another expression that's still showing itself. Let me feel for you if that's the case. Yes, it is. So that's something we would need to work on separately. That's too much to do right now. You can bring that up in another time. Send me a PM about it. Maybe we'll do a show about that too. My right foot and my right knee hurt. So foot and ankles, inflexibility and guilt. Also represents the ability to receive pleasure. So do you let yourself feel the pleasure in anything that you're doing? Knee is stubborn pride and ego, inability to bend, fear, inflexibility, won't give in. We tend to be pretty inflexible. Bashar, I reference Bashar a lot because I just love him. He was critical in my early growth and development. I don't listen much to others right now, but he was somebody I listened to a lot while I was growing and developing. So one of the things that he said was that humans are the most limited beings in the creation, in the universe, I think he said. Maybe it was galaxy. I can't remember now. They are the masters of limitation. And he was asked, if we're so limiting, why do you guys come and work with us? And he said, because if we can teach you how to break beyond your limitations, than we can teach anybody. So, rigidity, inflexibility, stubbornness, these are a human characteristic. They're part of the human condition. And as we as individuals learn and hold what it is to truly be flexible, more and more then the web, the collective, can be more flexible, less rigid. So let's see, we're going to be working on rigidity. It looks like what we're working on right now is stubbornness, rigidity, and perceptions. All right, we're all grounded and connected. Now I want you to close your eyes, come totally into yourself in this moment, fully grounded and connected and present. And imagine that you're sitting in a great big swamp. It's muddy. The mud is deep. There's water all around you. And coming up from below you in that swamp is a blossom. Right now it's just a little bud on a long tether. But as it's coming up, it's poking you from below. And it's lifting you up out of that swamp. And as you break through the surface of the water, allowing this filter of perception that you're holding, whatever your filter is that we called into focus earlier, your belief, what makes you better than others, what makes you less than others, whatever belief you're working on. As it brings it, the lotus blossom brings you up from the bottom of that swamp and breaks out of the surface of consciousness, bringing all aspects of you up from the unconscious sub-level. The blossom opens. It's opening into a pink, beautiful lotus blossom that is so expansive and supportive and perfectly clean. Right now, you don't feel so clean as we see all the debris. Notice the parts of the body are showing us how these beliefs are not serving us. They're creating pain, discomfort. They're creating challenging situations. They're drawing people to us in our lives that are recreating these situations. So over and over and over again, we're having this struggle. We're just allowing all of this awareness to come, feeling this around us. Noticing that this mud is dripping off of us and we see it getting the lotus blossom dirty. Let that fear, oh, it's dirty. Because we think that these people with their dirty thoughts, their dirty energy, their negativity, are going to do something to us. But the lotus blossom doesn't mind being dirty at all. It lives in the mud. So we're going to allow that to flow. Just that awareness. Notice how this lotus energy already is supporting you and you're feeling calmer. Those areas that are painful and discomforted, I want you to try moving the body in that space. I get it in this shoulder. Shoulders being our ability to carry our experiences and our journey, the responsibility and the attitude we hold towards our burdens. Ask to be shown where else we're rigid and inflexible. Bring into focus in front of you in your lotus blossom a mirror. Let's call it the mirror of self-truth and love. Allow this mirror to show you this current view, like a one-way mirror, you know, or the, what do they call it, a two-way mirror, where you can see through it for a moment. You can see your reflection, but you're going to see through that mirror for a minute. And look at the situation, all the components of it, all the pieces of it. Allow them to play out in that glass, that looking glass, as you sit in this lotus blossom, flowing the waters up from Gaia through you, flowing the light of source down through you, through your mud. And I'm just going to hold space for you while you do so. Just looking and observing. When judgment comes up, thank it. Allow it. Let yourself go free on it for a little bit, just pulling everything up. Your fear and anxiety, just pulling it all up. Allow it to come up out of your depths like a lotus blossom. For each piece of stubborn and rigidity that you have, allow a lotus blossom to snake up to your surface and open, transforming, allowing all the aspects of this to be seen and transmuted into its most optimum of awareness. Now I want you to see how the reflection in that mirror has shifted, and it's actually a childlike part of yourself. The child that decided they're not loved, they're not safe, they're not supported, they're not held, they're not allowed. See them, those children. And see now through their eyes into that situation, so you can clearly see how they have filtered your view. Not because you're mad at them, not because they're bad, but because they're beautiful and they survived. And they are powerful. They're so powerful, they can shape your reality in the subconscious. Imagine what they can do consciously as a part of you. Continue looking through their eyes until you fall in love with their perspective. You see why they held it and how it served you, how it taught you your strengths, how it deepened your compassion, how it taught you to be both independent and dependent, how you showed that you could hold firm and bend and break and rebuild. Imagine that your heart chakra is a great big barn door and you're opening it wide and bringing that filter, that child, inside the heart. As you envelop them with your love and your gratitude for every learning lesson they brought you, for every struggle they created till you saw them, for every knock that you ignored. You love them for coming back again. Tuning back into those areas of physical discomfort or pain, ask the body to show you, is there anything else in relationship to this that I need to know and be aware of? Allow it to be seen upon your mirror. Does this child need me to see something Are they afraid I'm not going to notice this? What fear do they hold that makes them not feel safe inside of you and want to run back to the external? Is there anything left? If not, just keep holding and loving them. We're also going to call in this time as we pull this childlike self in, because we haven't done a lot of this kind of work. Bringing them in. I guess we have done a lot. Time for more. We're going to call in the Divine Mother to hold us and support us as she flows our optimum divine feminine energy through our vessel, through our energy fields, bringing us into optimum frequency and alignment of our feminine energy. Let it flow through you. Take note of which side of your body it feels like it's flowing through if you want to know. Take note if it's got blockages anywhere there's a block, blossom a rose, or a lotus, whichever you feel drawn to. And now we're going to call in the Divine Father, that divine masculine, to support and hold us as we flow that divine masculine energy through the vessel and through the energy fields, allowing our body to show us areas that are stuck, allowing our mirror to show us our beliefs, our filters that this childlike state is held around the masculine and the feminine, and continue to flow that energy. Now we're going to balance the masculine and feminine energy with each other. Your two sides coming into balance with each other, allowing these energies to flow gracefully and effortlessly through the chakras, through the vessel, through your energy fields, all the way through your lotus blossom. As you bring in more balance, look back at the original triggering filter, belief, or perception, person, situation. How do you feel about this now? Are you seeing it through a different filter? Are you maybe seeing another view or perception of it? Can you find another way to look at it? A way that it served you. Good. Now try to find another one. A totally different way to look at it. A different way that it served. Something you're grateful for in it. Something that's beautiful about it. And now find another way. And notice how instead of being way up here, you're kind of here and here. You're finding that balance on this particular issue, belief, filter. Cut away from the other that says, I am me and you are separate. Wound of separation, right? You guys are amazing. This was beautiful, and you can keep doing this work for as long as you want. You can re-listen to this and do it over a different situation. This is big work, guys. I'm really proud of you. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful rest of your morning. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's see, Tuesday, tomorrow night, I will be at New Renaissance event space doing a psychic fair with the Psychic Gallery. There will be, I believe, 15 of us, I think was the last count, that will be providing various readings, sessions, support in different ways. I will be on the 1st at New Renaissance for a love panel with 3 other psychic intuitives who are, who we're all here to, there's 2 of us that are married, 2 of us that are single, gay, bi, straight, all are covered. So come on down, and if you have questions about that piece, we can answer questions or do support at that. And that's about it. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.